hauntings, cryptids, the unknown. Welcome to Mystic Moon Café Radio. Join the hosts of Mystic Moon Café for an evening of terrifying tales, ghostly encounters, monsters of the moors, mysterious toys and demonic dolls, ancient graveyards where people are dying to get in and out. So join us. Catch us live on our YouTube channel, our website, or Spreaker. More details at our website, www.mysticmooncafe.com. Hope to see you there.
Well, hello, listeners. We've got an extra special event tonight because we're doing Facebook Live and we really don't know what we're doing. So I hope that worked.
If not, people were just sitting there going, what the heck? Oh, that was awesome, though. I'm scared already.
All right.
I'm just kidding. You know, I don't get scared. But no, it was very good. It was
Record,
very good.
Jake.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I have
Or can
true.
I?
You know, I always forget something, and that's because I'm multitasking with like 6 different things at one time here.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if we can pull the video off of Facebook Live too.
Yeah,
or,
we
you know,
probably
Facebook.
could. I'm telling
Probably, as
you. I
the
think
owners.
that's the case.
Well, so
Very good.
how has everyone been? What's going on in your little, sequestered lives?
Not much. Just taking. Actually, I have people coming to me for more pet sitting deals. So
Yay!
yes. So
And I'm going to be
got that
pet
going.
sitting this weekend. I'll be
you
watching
will?
Kim's cat.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yes.
Hopefully she doesn't eat it.
She will not eat it. She is not that much of a shut-in.
Aw.
Everything, but yes. So I need to get my kitty fix.
Well,
you can hear my puppy in the background.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hello. Which
You
one
need
is
a
it?
puppy fix.
That was
too.
Daisy.
I had my
Ah.
puppy fix this last weekend.
Nice.
You had your puppy fix, not fixed.
Not fixed,
Okay.
yeah.
Fixed.
Yeah, I guess I
Not
better
fixed.
say that a little bit better.
Yeah.
was wondering where this was going. That's all right.
Yeah. You know us. We tend to ramble a lot.
Have your
That's
pets
all right.
spayed and neutered.
Yes.
Always.
Two
yes.
for one special. No.
Is
Yeah.
that bring your husband and your pet?
Yeah, that would be nice. Just get them both done. We don't need
There
any
you
more
go.
children in the world.
That's true.
That's
Come on,
right.
people.
That's right.
That's true.
6 billion little miracles is enough. Come on, people. I'm just kidding. Nobody else.
Well, we've been having a lot of rain here, and I was informed that 2 of the tomato plants are out there looking like we're going to start having to feed them people. So send deliveries. Well, we will feed
Start
them.
hearing, feed
Yeah.
me, Wendy.
Exactly.
Seymour.
Suddenly Seymour, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Feed me, Seymour.
Mm.
And I didn't get a chance to really get ready for the show tonight. We ran into technical difficulties kind of late, but
Yeah.
but here we are. Here we are, and we're
That's
having
right.
fun.
That's
I'm-
right.
I'm looking on the Facebook. I'm seeing the live with the 4 of us.
Okay.
You know,
Cool.
so that's always a good sign.
Very,
That's
very
a
cool.
Good start to it all.
Yes.
Very cool.
So I guess we could talk a little bit about, our new ventures into live broadcast you knew about from radio, but now we're trying to do it on video. And why is that?
Why not?
you go.
It's kind of the next progressive step. Possibly bring in more listeners and
Mhm.
fans and fun stuff like that. Our June 10th guest was telling me about how they were doing things, and I thought, well, heck, we can try. We've got plenty of smart people around. I'll have to go find them, of course, but they're around.
No.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So we have, at least you guys can figure things out. I feel like I'm too old.
June,
I'm too old.
No, you're not.
I'm just along for the ride, so
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. We won't
And
talk
you-
about Ross being.
Yeah. If you're too old, then I'm too old, and we just can't have that.
That is true. I
Yeah.
forgot we're the same age. I can't insult my age, then I insult your age.
Well, right now, I think you're a year older than I am, so it's okay.
Oh, yeah. That's probably true. It's like, oh man,
Mhm.
I was older. I know. I've been really busy working from home, so it's been
Mhm.
pretty awesome. I tried to do this wonderful closet project where I get everything organized, and oh my god, it's turned into a nightmare. Let's just say, yeah, it's turned into a nightmare. Is that Maria Kando?
Narnia opened up back
Yes,
there.
Narnia. That would be awesome. Then I could just go and walk and not have to deal with my closet.
Uh-huh.
All the fur
Feed
coats in the back.
Aslan. Mhm.
Yeah, all the fur coats in the back as you start going through the
June.
snow.
We eventually have to come out of the closet sometime.
Oh God, no. I'm gonna stay right there. So that's gonna be my fun. I have to finish it so I can actually sleep on my bed tonight.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's just say, Maria Kondo, does it give you joy? It's like, oh, everything was giving me joy. And then I was like, really, June? You haven't worn some of these things in a year or 2 or 3 or maybe 5. Why are you
But
keeping them?
then there's always, it doesn't give me joy now, but maybe next year. so I
Yes.
should hold
See,
on
that's
to
my
it.
whole thing. I know I'm going to love this again. But I was like, oh my God. And I'm not going to wear heels anymore. Come on. I mean, like real heels. The real heels.
You got rid of your stilettos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are never seeing the light of day again.
The heels are gone.
So yeah, so that's been my fun project besides working,
True.
all
Whee!
that stuff. So
Mine's been building the Lego haunted house.
yes.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
So it just came out. It's part of the fairground set. So it's actually inspired by the Tower of Terror from Disney.
Yeah. California Adventureland.
Yep. So, well, now that one now is Galaxies of the Guardians.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Galaxy.
Yeah. So that Tower of Terror is still in Florida, though. So
Okay.
just
In
because
Disney World,
Disney's trying to make a lot of their parks a little more unique. So yeah, so it's just basically, but it's the same thing as Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got the elevator that drops up and down.
Yeah, there's
So
way.
that's what I'm doing.
Mhm.
No way in hell am I writing
You'll
that
do
with
it,
you.
June. I'm gonna take you to the park blindfolded.
You will.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you blindfold me, like I'm gonna even walk with you anywhere.
I did love the Tower of Terror.
Did you
I did
really?
too.
Did you
Yeah, and
like
it's
that feeling
Twilight
of
Zone.
dropping? Oh my
I
god!
did.
I
Every time it
can't
comes up
stand that feeling
would
of
take-
dropping.
Pictures of you though, with you screaming, I'm always like, or I'm like,
Oh no! The guns, the finger guns. Oh no!
yep.
Oh my gosh, that's great. But
Absolutely.
Mhm.
well, speaking of scary,
What? Huh? What?
should we start off with something very true and scary?
Okay.
Or should we just say forget it and go home?
We
Stay
are
home.
home.
Yeah, that's right. Never mind.
Yeah, we could
I got
say
a house
forget it,
to
I can
build, so-
walk to the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, we're taking away from Ross's Lego time.
Oh no.
But so this story is kind of dedicated to scary stories, spooky stories, anything that kind of chills you and gives you some goosebumps.
Mm.
And I always love a good goosebump. Just saying. Something gives me some goosebumps.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. Okay.
When
When June starts telling us that she likes the bumps, I'm like, okay.
So crazy.
Shall I read a couple of comments from the chat room?
Oh, sure.
From the
Okay.
Facebook chat room?
Yes. Mhm.
Ooh, we have chat. Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
Barbie Allison Lumbert, who I believe is Ross's mom, says, "Hi, son. Hi,
God.
June."
She found me.
Put your underwear. To wear underwear.
Ciara Caldwell says she's so excited. Her corgis and she are ready to be spooked.
Oh boy.
Ooh, yeah.
Now there's pressure,
Yes.
Ross. There's pressure. Since you're gonna kick these stories off, there are some pressure.
Oh God.
Kelly says, "I love it. So happy to put a voice to a face." And Michelle Hopkins says, "Hey guys."
Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
Elaine Davison says, "Scary is good."
Mhm.
Hey, Elaine.
And oh yeah, the show is now PG-15, Michelle.
PG-15.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, there
that says
goes all my
15.
stories. Goodbye, you guys.
No, we're not going to listen to your porn stories, Ross. This is a family show with PG, a little bit higher PG.
Hey, I can still go for R. Come on.
Yeah, a little bit of a
Okay,
mini
go
R
for
rating.
it. Do it. Yeah, that's all right.
True.
So, how
Wonderful.
should we start this off?
Should we
Well-
start with our kind of guest? That would be
with
Ross.
us tonight to tell stories
Like,
is
the
Ross
The one that's
Allison.
hanging out. Well, just wait. He's
I'm not
down
that
in my
kind.
view, but in YouTube, he's kind of. I mean, on Facebook Live, he's kind of that way.
No, that
Right.
way.
Yeah.
He's
But
diagonal.
here, when I look at the
sideways.
monitor, he's like right down there.
There you go.
But over there, he's like over there.
Are we going to do the
Uh-oh.
Partridge Family thing? Or not the
Pretty
Partridge?
much.
the
Yeah.
Bunch?
Brady Bunch. Who's going to be Alice in the middle?
Okay, and now Dana Edmondson is plus your sister is listening, Ross.
Oh gosh.
This is kind of
Casey
fun.
Goodwin joined.
I'm
Hey,
having
Casey.
technical errors.
Yeah.
I hate
Not gonna
those.
work.
I hate when those happen. So you in the chat room know we have about a 15, 20 minute minute,
Wow,
second
that's a delay.
delay. Between two. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
20
right?
minute delay.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wi-Fi really sucks.
It's buffering. We got a buffer.
Mhm.
We got a
So
buffer.
we will catch up as we can here. Please bear with it.
All right.
Okie dokie.
So I guess the pressure's on me now, huh?
Pretty
It
much,
is.
yeah.
It's all on you,
You can
Ross. Poor
You better
start off.
thing.
perform too,
Oh.
buddy.
But your mom and your sister are supporting you in
Yeah.
chat.
That's great. Thank you.
Mhm. Sure.
I did want to start with one story that I don't get to tell that often. It actually takes place at the, oh gosh, what is that place in San Francisco? That hotel,
The Queen,
the
or
Queen
the
Anne,
Queen Anne
Hotel.
Mhm.
Yes, Queen Anne Hotel is coming to me. All right.
Mhm.
So the Queen Anne Hotel is a place that actually started out as Mary Lake School for Girls, and it was a location that taught young ladies how to be a proper young lady. But unfortunately, Mary Lake passed away shortly after the school had opened up. And so the place went through many changes. It used to be a gentleman's club before it was actually converted into a hotel back in the late 80s. So they say that the most haunted room is what used to be Mary Lake's office. Now, it has been converted into a really nice room. Now, they say that she is very flirtatious and she loves it when guys stay in the room. There have been stories of touching, stories of you wake up like somebody is kissing you on your cheek. There's also stories of if you happen to pass out on top of the bed, you'll wake up with a blanket tucked around you to the point where you could barely move. So, being that we had the room for the weekend, I decided that I definitely wanted to stay in the room because, I was a single guy. I was like, yeah, this would be great. But I also, due to our strict rules in our ghost group, is we can't investigate alone. You at least have to have somebody there to validate your experiences. So I thought, well, why don't I see if one of the other guys wants to stay in the room with me? Because now she's got options. So I basically talked one of the guys. He was one of our newer members at the time, to see if he would, stay in the room with me. Now he was a little scared doing this because, again, this was like his first major investigation. And so I was able to convince him because I said, you know what, I will be the guinea pig and I will sleep on top of the covers. I said, you can go ahead and sleep under the covers. And so he agrees to this. Well, late into the night, he can't handle it anymore, and he ends up leaving me alone in the room. Well, later in the night, I am awoken by what feels like an icy hand going down my back, followed by a scream. And I quickly turn around and I see the back of the head of somebody in bed with me. So I start to yell. I'm like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you touching me? And after a few moments of silence, I finally hear a male voice and it goes, Ross, what's going on? Well, apparently I dreamt that he had left me alone in the room. And now this guy is not aware that I was yelling at him. Well, that scream, apparently it came from me. So the whole next day, I kept hearing from all the other guests of the hotel going, oh my God, did you hear that woman scream last night? Yeah. So now you guys know the truth behind the screaming ghost at the Queen Anne Hotel.
Well, at least that was a good opener. Oh, God.
Your mom says that's her kind of story.
Uh-huh. But as we work into some of the more scarier stuff, I know, Wendy, you wanted me to talk about the St. Louis story.
Please, if you don't mind.
No problem.
It's one of my favorites.
Yep. Well, I lecture at colleges and universities all over the U.S., especially around Halloween time. So I was invited to St. Louis University. Now, for those that aren't familiar with St. Louis University's haunted history, It actually was involved in the true exorcist case. Now, the story is that the young boy that they had named Robbie to protect his identity was brought to the campus because the church was actually on the campus that was involved in this. Now, they believe that they could not perform a full exorcism on the boy inside the church because they feel that this could possibly kill the boy. So what they had done is they had moved him to various secret locations throughout the building right next door to the church. They had owned the building at the time. So throughout the years, they had now sold that building to the campus. And when I went out to do my lecture, I was invited out to do my lecture. And of course, when I do my lecture, I also take the students on a ghost hunt. So, of course, they take me to this building right next to the church. And we kind of went around, and it was nothing unusual. It was a nice building. You could see that it was a historic building. And we finally go up to the third floor, and I was surprised to see that it was completely abandoned and run down. I mean, holes all over the place, graffiti everywhere. And I kind of asked him, I said, why isn't the campus utilizing the space? Because it was huge up there. I was like, wow. And they said, well, they've had too many problems on the fourth floor that they've completely abandoned it. And when they say problems, they're kind of hinting around to paranormal problems. So, we kind of walk around through all the different rooms. And at the one time, they used to use that floor for Sunday school. So I'm going through all these different rooms, and there's classrooms, up there, and you could see the old classrooms, the chalkboards, even the small desks still in the rooms there. And we go through all and a different room, and there are also some, small rooms that used to be rooms for the nuns when they lived up there. And they take me into this one room, and they said, oh, well, this is a room where apparently a nun had committed suicide. And so we did our little investigation there, and we continued on, and we walked into this one room, and right when I walked in the room, I heard this crunch underneath my feet. And I kind of looked down to see what I'd stepped on, and I realized I had stepped on a dead bird. Now, this was kind of odd because I had already gone through most of the building, and I had not come across any dead animals. And so I kind of shined my light around the room so I could kind of move the bird off to the side so no one else would step on the dead bird. And as I was kind of surprised to see that this room was just filled with dozens and dozens of dead birds. And what surprised me about this is security had removed all the doors on that floor because they've had too many problems with students sneaking up there to scare each other. So being that there's no doors up there, they could easily make their rounds. Mm-hmm. So why did these birds all die in this one room when they had access to the whole fourth floor? Well, come to find out, this is the room that the boy had stayed in. Now, creep factor's gone up quite a bit. Oh, yeah. And, believe me, I've been in some of the deepest, darkest places you can imagine. And I'm hardly ever fazed by this, but I'm a little creeped out being in this room, and knowing what took place here. So I get the students started on some of the basic equipment. And so we're kind of walking around in this little room for a little bit. And within 5 minutes of being in the room, all of a sudden, all the equipment starts to go off at the exact same time. We're talking the temperature starts to drop in the room. And I can physically feel it getting colder and colder, almost to the point where I'm expected to see my breath anytime soon. Mm-hmm. We're talking, the EMF detectors going off like crazy, and we can't figure out what's causing the EMF readings. The compass is spinning around and around and around and around, and it will not stop. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. So I got to document this. I got to prove that this is really happening. And unfortunately, a picture does not prove that any of this is happening. Right. So I quickly switched my camera over to video, and I start filming, infrared video, throughout the room. I'm filming the equipment going off, and then it starts to slow down a little bit. So I realized, okay, before it completely stops, I want to try for some EVP. So if you're not familiar with that, electronic voice phenomena, those are voices that appear on the recorders that aren't supposed to be there. So I start to ask questions into the room, and I happen to ask the question, can you tell me whose room this is? Now there's about 12 seconds of silence, and then all of a sudden I start to hear crying to the left of me. And I turn and I realize that a couple of the female students have started to cry because they're so terrified being in this room. And again, I'm a little uncomfortable too, because I don't have my normal ghost hunting team. This is just, a bunch of college students following me around. So I realized, okay, for me, it's always safety first. I don't know what we're up against here. So I decided to go ahead and wrap it up in that room and continue the investigation in another location. Well, I was hoping that after the, ghost hunt with the students, I'd go back and be able to do my own little investigation in that room. But I didn't get a chance to go back. But I finally got home after my lecture tour, and I started reviewing all the evidence that I collected at all these campuses. And I actually got to that video. And I got to the part where I'd asked that question, can you tell me whose room this is? And right after I'd asked that question, you can hear in best describe a male voice, it says, and I'll edit this because we're going to keep this PG, but it says, F you, it's mine. Yeah. So that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to fast forward a few years now. So after I'd done that initial investigation, a lot of these schools have strict rules that they're not allowed to have somebody come back, every year. Yeah, they try to keep the entertainment different for everybody. So it was probably a good 5 years later, they had me back. Okay. Now, there had been some major changes to the campus, especially that building. They had actually renovated that floor and decided to use that area. So I was excited to go back. I was kind of, oh man, it's not going to be the same, because it's not run down like it was. Mm-hmm. So as I was continuing to talk to the student board that invited me to come back and we were setting this up, I was trying to recall exactly where that room was so that when we go back, we can at least make sure we have access to where that space was, sure, knowing that it's now been remodeled. Because they now opened it up. They have a big meeting room up there. They have offices up there. Oh, so this is a big change. Mm-hmm. So we finally, get, through my lecture, we get ready for the ghost hunt and everything. And to my surprise, come to find out that particular room, they didn't touch it. Oh, man. There's been so many problems with that space. They decided to just lock it off from the rest of the remodel. So the only way to get to that room now is you have to go up this back staircase, this old crickety staircase, to get up to that space. So this is kind of exciting. It's like, wow, there really is something to this, especially if they refuse to, remodel that space. They've just now boarded it off from the rest of the floor. So the reason why they chose to not touch the space is, again, through the years, they've tried to use that space for various different things. The last ditch effort, security was using it for storage. They had taken their bikes and had put them up in this room for storage through the winter season. And of course, when they'd come back and get their bikes, the seats would be bent around, the chains would be, ripped off the handlebars would be bent around. So there was just too much damage happening to their property when they stored it in this room. Mm-hmm. Now, this is that room, where again, they had actually, the little boy had stated, they had actually performed exorcisms in this room. This is that room that's, was where I found all those dead birds and all the equipment went off like crazy. So there's definitely something interesting going on here. So they grant me access to actually be able to do an investigation overnight. So we do our normal, ghost hunt for the students. We got to go and take the students up there, and I told them my story. I played them, the EVP that I captured up there. And after the actual investigation, we were able to go back and do a couple little, investigations for the rest of the night. And I remember I had the director with me, her assistant. It was just us three, and we were just exploring up in this space because that staircase, this old crickety staircase, I mean, it makes a lot of noise going up the staircase. You get to the top, and there's this long hallway, and to the left it takes you into an attic space and a couple other rooms, and then then on the other side is another little hallway leading straight to the boys' room, and then there's another room next to it. So there's like these 4 rooms that are not touched. They've been completely sealed off from the rest of the floor.
Okay.
So as we're exploring around, we go into the attic space first. And as we're in the attic, all the lights are off. I'm doing my infrared camera. They're walking around, and all of a sudden, the director, she actually screams and look over, and in the corner next to the door, you can actually see almost like a human-like figure standing next to the doorway. And of course, I immediately got my camera out there. And, this is, again, a long time ago when, infrared wasn't as great as it is today. So it didn't turn out as well. But I remember seeing it with my own eyes, seeing it stand off to the doorway, and then it just slowly faded away. And it took these girls a good, I would say 15, 20 minutes before they even have the courage to go through head towards that doorway, because that was the only way out.
Oh boy.
Was that doorway, and they're standing there scared right next to me, not wanting to go there. And they wanted to call it a night, but I still wanted to get back into that room because we hadn't gotten to that room yet, So we finally, I get them, they're like, you follow me close behind, to get through that doorway. We get to the doorway, we go straight to that room on the other end. And, again, they're still freaked out after what they saw. And so I said, okay, I'll just go ahead and set up some recorders, throughout the night. And then I'll come back and pick them up in the morning. And so they were happy with that. So I went ahead and set up some recorders. We headed out. I came back the next morning, collected the recorders. And then when I finished my lecture tour, I had the chance to finally review the audio. And I have to tell you, some of the craziest stuff was captured throughout that night. One of the most interesting things that really stands out is you will hear what sounds like a train coming into the station, that sound, with the train on the tracks. Like there's a train coming into the station, and during that sound, you can also hear in the background somebody pounding on a door screaming, "Let me out, let me out, let me out."
Oh my.
And I was baffled by this because I was just like, this is the oddest thing to pick up in a room. And this is around, 4:00 in the morning. There's no train station in the area. Now there used to be, when I had brought this up to her and they listened to it, they did their own research and they said there used to be a train station, back before the campus was there. So that was kind of interesting, but not that close. Now, the other thing is too, is in this recording, just to make sure that no one was tampering with the recorder, you can hear me set up the recorder, and you can hear us leave, and you hear us going down those old, wooden staircase that makes so much noise. And then you can hear me come back early in the next morning, and picking it up. So it ran the whole night. And so throughout that time, you will hear what sounds like somebody walking down the hall. You'll hear a door open and close, and just this mumbling sound in the background that I just cannot figure out what's causing those noises. So unfortunately, I've not had the opportunity to go back. From what I've been told, they don't allow the ghost hunts anymore. It's kind of freaked out a lot of people, but it is on my bucket list to go back because I feel that there is something there.
Yeah, that's creepy.
So
Love that.
is
Let me
that's
out. Let me
yeah.
out.
I think you've heard it, June. Yeah, you've heard it. Yeah,
I need
Yeah,
it's in
those
my
you-
video.
DVDs.
Yeah, it's in my presentation. But again, it's amazing that what you can capture in some of these places. This is the whole reason why I do this, is when you capture those unique pieces to the puzzle.
Mhm.
There's
It's-
there's a
uh,
question in chat about it. Clara asks, would you say that voice was from a spirit, ghost, demon, or other paranormal presence? Could dead birds of that magnitude be present around a benevolent force or only around a malevolent force? Could there be multiple presences in one space? And then
Well, I
think
definitely there's a lot there.
yeah.
No, I definitely feel in some places there could be multiple entities, energies there. You know, if you consider the simple fact of like attracts like, I think a lot of times if you have a dominant spirit, it can attract other spirits as well. Now, it's not always the case where I feel like, you know, when somebody goes into a haunted house and says, oh, I feel like there's 20 spirits here, I don't feel that that's always the case.
Right.
Maybe one or two possibly, but I think it's possible, but it doesn't apply to all cases out there. Now, as to what it was that I captured, you know, I try not to bring religion into it, because if you bring religion into it when you claim to be scientific, then you are being biased in your research. So I would say, was there something negative there? Very possible. You know, there's still a lot of information about the Exorcist case that we don't have all the information. You know, a lot of it's been embellished, you know, to support the book. You
especially
know.
Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood's gotten a hold of it. So, you know, I've heard a lot of different stories from it. Some, you know, don't mesh up with, you know, the older stories or the newer stories. So it's a difficult case to really dig your hands into and get the real facts, because unfortunately a lot of the people that were involved are no longer around. You know, the priests and stuff like that were involved. They've, you know, passed as well. So it's, I would have to say, I don't want to say it was demonic, but it was definitely, I would say, something negative in its reaction. You know, its response was, you know, F you, it's mine. Was I physically attacked in any way? No. But everything that I've captured, you know, through EVP has been a very negative response. You know, the pounding on the door, screaming, let me out, is pretty intense as well.
Right.
So, but without having the opportunity to go back and investigate numerous times, because again, you know, you don't always get the answers off of just one investigation. It's going back and collecting more and more pieces to that paranormal puzzle. And this is the location that unfortunately does not open their doors to, you know, public and ghost hunts, or, you know, even private ghost hunts. This is a rare opportunity for someone like me to be able to have, you know, be granted access to that location. So again, this is why I want to go back. I want to see, you know, what else is going on there. But you know, it's time will tell.
Is the property still owned by the church?
No. They had actually, the church is still there. So the church is, if you do, like, you know, MapQuest, you know, look at the campus, you can see the church. And if you're facing the church, the building that I'm talking about is to the left of it. And they have sold that building to the campus. So that's why we were able to get access to it for the ghost hunts.
It's awesome.
I didn't know if we could petition the Pope to let you
petition the Pope. Yes. Please, Mr. Pope.
Yeah.
We need to look for ghosts.
Right.
It's one of those things that now all you have to do is contact the right people on the campus to be able to get granted access. But I've been told that they don't like to talk about the ghost stuff.
I'm sure not.
It's
I don't want
paranormal
to scare the
history.
students.
Well, it does. I'm sure it does freak them out and cause, some problems. I've worked on a lot of campuses where I've done, lectures, and we do the ghost hunt, and they're like, "Oh, can you investigate our dorm?" And in the beginning, it's like, "Yeah, sure, let's go investigate the dorm." And of course, the next day after the ghost hunt, half the students want to move out of the dorm.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
That's
It's all fun.
happened.
All
Sure.
fun and games until someone says, F you, it's mine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Ross, for sharing your
thank you.
stories.
And
anytime,
Clara,
guys.
Thank
or
you.
excuse me, I think it's Ciara, says thank you. And your mom says his mama will say it, demonic.
Well, you guys have a fun night.
You too.
And,
Okay.
Go back
Thank
to
you,
building your
Ross.
haunted
Thank
house.
you very much.
Yes.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was creepy.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I don't, we usually don't have a lot of scary stories about investigating, even though people think, oh my gosh, are boards and bricks being thrown at your head? Oh my God, there's demons everywhere. But, it's very rare. We've had some very cool places, but very rare when that happens,
Mhm.
where you get goosebumps.
A lot of energy there being channeled.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what's next?
What's next? Let's talk to Spin Master Jake. Jake.
How about I play one of Randy's spooky stories?
Ooh, yeah, that sounds
Okey-dokey.
good.
Okay. I don't know the name of it. It just came in as Spooky Story 1.
Okay,
So
yeah, that's that'll work.
That's
And it's
okay.
from Randy Kovach,
so
friend to many.
Let me go ahead and do my share for my audio. You should still be able to hear us all while this is going on. And this is Spooky Story number 1.
Spooky story.
I was working as a busboy at Sea Galley Restaurant when I was younger. Each table had smoke plexiglass between them, so you couldn't easily see anyone. It was approaching closing time, and the other busboy and I were standing at our little station waiting for the last table to leave. We could hear them laughing, hear the glasses and silverware clinking. All our other work was done except for cleaning the last table when they left. The manager came over to us and asked why we were still here. We told him we were waiting for the last table to leave. He listened and heard them back there, so I decided to go back and ask them to wrap it up. A few minutes later, he comes back looking shaken and says, "There's no one back there, let's go." We didn't believe him and decided to quickly go back and check. When we got back there, it was empty. All the tables were clean and set. We never spoke about it again.
Creepy.
Very creepy.
There are a lot of stories like that, though. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
people hearing the sounds of like a gathering or a party or everything like this. And they're like, "Wow!" Or they call the police even on their neighbors. I've heard stories like that and find out their neighbors are not home and there's there.
Freaky, scary, spooky, ooky.
Thank you,
Yes.
Randy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, what would y'all like to do next?
Well, June recorded a story.
You can hear my story now.
It's called The Chair. Do you want to read it, or would you like me to play your audio broadcast?
You can play the audio if you'd like to, if you can.
Okay, I will do that then.
Here
Since
we go.
Zoom makes it so easy for me. This is The Chair, as read by June Antoinette Nixon.
This story is called The Chair. It's a story via Reddit by Scoop Whoop. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favorite thing was the ghost. We called this ghost Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings, Betsy and I would wake up, and on each of our nightstands, we'd find a cup that hadn't been there the night before. Mother had left them there worried that we'd get thirsty during the night. She just wanted to take care of us. Among the home's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair, which we kept against the back wall of the living room. Whenever we were preoccupied, watching TV, or playing a game, Mother would inch that chair forward across the room toward us. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way to the center of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall again. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we'd moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. She'd murdered her 2 children by giving them each a cup of poisoned milk before bed. Then she hung herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room with a woman's body hanging from a beam. Beneath her, knocked over, was that old wooden chair placed exactly in the center of the room.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Josh, that's our next. That's a good segue.
Hey, wow, that was a good segue.
Wasn't it?
Perfect.
Let me stop my audio share. So we have Josh.
Yeah.
Hello,
Spooky
Josh.
red light too.
That's even
Well,
better.
this is when I come in late at night after drinking and gaming with my buddy. My wife doesn't ruin her eyesight. See, I put a red light in the room, so as we know, red light, keeps your night vision.
I actually thought you were just in like a porn theater or something.
Sometimes.
We're not going to share those stories tonight, Josh.
No,
okay,
it's not that
It's
kind of
not
spooky
porn
story.
stories.
Sometimes.
The glory hole from hell.
Well, no holes. None unknown holes, I should say. So I've never done anything like this. So, yeah.
We can direct.
Join the club.
Yeah, like
That's what he said.
yeah. All you got to do is tell us your spookiest story with creepy voices, if possible.
Yeah.
I could. Well, I don't know if I have a creepy voice, but I could definitely lead up to it.
Okay.
But now, what kind of story do you want? I mean, do you want like what made me become a ghost hunter, or do you want me to like something that is one of those phenomenons that most people don't get to experience like ever in life, and I did? Or do you want, I mean, I don't know what kind of
just a story that creeped you out.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Well, I could tell you multiple stories. I've got stories for days. I'm not going to go into
Bring
any
them.
basic, like stupid, like football, footstep stories or anything like that. I'm not going to bore you out with that.
Okay.
Because those are all like everybody has footstep stories.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got lots of footstep stories.
yeah, and I've got footstep stories where people were upstairs, people were downstairs, the footsteps were still happening, blah 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 blah. Okay, so I've got like 4 different stories I could choose from. 2 of them are pretty amazing, but not like especially scary. But then there's 2 that are, definitely make my skin crawl.
Let's hear the skin crawls.
Yeah.
The skin crawl.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll go ahead and tell the story of like what my first paranormal experience was, like my real paranormal that I actually experienced, full on, that made me become a ghost hunter. And I'll try with spooky voices.
You can try.
Well, you guys are welcome to look this place up. It is a public place. It's called Old Keokee Baptist Church. I'll spell that, which is Kiokee in Appling, Georgia. It's called Old Keokee Baptist Church. And I've actually been to its actually modernized church because we were seeking investigation at this location. And we went in and met with like the head people of the church. And they brought it to their board or whatever, and then came back to us. And this is the only time that I was actually thrown off of church property. Basically, we went into them and we're like, hey, we want to investigate, blah blah blah. You know, we have a long, you know, reputation. We have a great resume with lots of locations. And basically, I guess they came back to us and said, you know, us, the way that we believe, you know, we don't believe in ghosts. And of course, me being a younger investigator and less experienced, of course, I'm going to challenge that and not think about the client. You know what I mean? And I was like, so you're telling me, as a believer of the Christian faith, that you don't believe in ghosts? And they're like, that is correct. And I'm like, so what do you call God and Jesus and all the angels and the devil and the demons? Sir, we're going to ask you to leave the property. So, so that's basically, yeah, but the location, the old Keoki Baptist Church is in Appling, and it is an old building with really, really high, no, that's not really creepy, really high windows. You know, it was built in like 16 something, I believe. Yeah, at least the original location was, and it has no indoor electricity or anything like that. And I was out there with my friends one night, and like the original pastor and his wife is buried on the back wall of the church. That's where they're buried. And there's not really a cemetery involved with this church. There is a baptismal pit and things of that nature. Well, we were out there. It was really, now this property, I'll have to tell you a little backstory first. I had been out to this property a couple of times during the day, without any friends or anything like this. And this is way before I ever became a paranormal investigator. But you would go on this property, and it was like a vortex. It was the weirdest thing. If it was a hot, sweaty, you know, day, sunny outside, the atmosphere, once you cross property line, would turn cold. It would become overcast. It would become it was very opposite of what the outside area of the church property was. It was very, very strange. So that was one big intriguing factor. So we went back one night, and we had been drinking a little bit. But we went back, and I'd only had like a beer. I didn't like beer at this point. So I'd only had like a beer over 4 hours, because I just sipped on it, kept filling it with water and sip on it. And, we were down on the property, and basically, I've always been the type of investigator. I enjoy historical buildings. I enjoy the way they're built. I enjoy looking at them. I enjoy, figuring out what period they're from. Now, of course, down in Georgia, compared to up here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm used to dealing with things from the 1700s, the buildings, the original federal style homes, the original, my knowledge of, experience with older buildings is a lot more than what it is up here in the Pacific Northwest. Up here, I'm more interested in like mines and gold mining towns and things like that. Regardless. So basically, so I've always been interested in the building of a location. And so we were at this church, and I was like, listen, I want to see what the inside of the church looks like. I see what the outside looks like. I get it. I want to see what the inside looks like. I told my buddy, I said, hey, go on the other side of the church and open the shutters. Now, there was like a parking lot spotlight that had been installed. So that way there was a light on the church. So anybody driving by would be able to see anybody down there or anything else like that. Now, this was way back country Georgia. Not a lot of people drove by on this individual road. And so there was no real chance of being interacted by anybody, especially at how late we were out there. It was about 2 a.m. So we're out, and I'm like, hey, dude, go on the other side of the church. If you open up the shutters on the other side, the street light, the parking light thing will come through the window, and I'll be able to see the inside of the church because there's no electricity. Well, so basically I walk up to the side of the church, and now I'm 6'5". The bottom ledge of the windowsill was about shoulder height. So basically that's because how it's built. It's built on rock, cemented rock pillars which makes it up off the ground, so that way the floor of the building would not rot out. So the bottom windowsill of the window was about shoulder height or so, and I opened my shutters, and right in front of me are two faces, and they're looking at me, and I just get this instant feeling of, who are you and what are you doing? And now I can explain, I can describe both of them. And they're probably, I'm looking in the window, my chin is about windowsill height and or so, and I'm looking in the window, and they're right on the other side of the glass from me. And of course I freeze, but at the same time I can't believe what I'm seeing. Now the whole thing happens in about 10 seconds because my friend, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, was fat and slow, and it took him a minute to get around the other side of the church. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these two faces. Now they were very similar to like American Gothic. The gentleman was gaunt faced with a black ribbon tie, reminding me a lot of the first Kane in Poltergeist. But even more gaunt faced, but he had a very thin black pencil mustache, which was different than anybody else. And then of course also then his wife was wearing a bonnet, but you could tell it was a church going bonnet, not like around the house bonnet. And the dress was very, you know, up the neck with a frilly neck with, you know, puffy shoulders and very tight midsection, very, you know, timely dress. And they were looking at me, and they were about less than 3 inches from my face, right on the other side of glass, because they were on the floor, and I felt by the way that they were looking at me that they knew I was going to open the shutter, and they were waiting for me to peer in and basically go beyond what their realm was. And no more did I see them in full 100. I mean, now they were pretty much white. The colors were very, like the blacks were very grayed out, but you could tell that it was definitely a different color than them themselves. It was more of like a misty type of thing, but their faces were very, very clear. The wife had blue eyes, the man had green eyes.
Wow.
And they were really staring at me. And then as soon as 10 seconds passed, my buddy opened the shutters on the other side of the church. The light from the parking lot came through. They were gone.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And that is what drove me to become a paranormal investigator, because I saw
needed more.
Yeah, I mean, I could see through them, but not. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like somebody calling an orb that you can see through, but not. Yeah, so it was very much the same type of situation, and that still, even to this day, makes my hair get kind of like woo. You know what I mean? So that's my story that made me becoming a paranormal investigator. I do have another story, but it's from Waverly Hills, and it was a personal.
Oh, let's hear Waverly Hills.
Waverly Hills. So, yeah, that's my first story.
All right. Good one.
Anybody have any questions or anything? I mean, like I said, look up Old Keoki Baptist Church. They're not going to follow up with anything haunted more than likely, because they are a Southern Baptist church. But it's definitely you can find other investigations done by other teams. It is a no trespassing situation. I never went back there during a trespassing situation, but before I became a paranormal investigating, no trespassing meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
Right.
We can see a lot of that on YouTube and some of the other channels.
We were all young
our other paranormal investigation teams.
Yes.
Exactly.
Just saying, a ghost always gets permission before we go to any properties. So just putting that out there,
Not just a ghost, but any proper paranormal
investigating team
will get, whether it's an individual or a team, any proper paranormal investigator will always get permission before crossing property lines. And personally, that's my motto, whether there's a no trespassing sign or not. If I don't have permission to be here, I'm not going. I don't care what my team says. I'm not going to jail for you.
That's true. That's right.
Actually, one night we did go out there. This was before no trespassing signs were up. I was with my team. You guys can look them up as well. They're actually a good team. I don't really have anything negative to say about them. I have some unlikes with the team leader, with her choices. but overall, the team is a real team, and you guys might want to look them up. They're called South Coast Paranormal Society. They're based out of Augusta, Georgia. And we went actually out there to Old Keokee Baptist Church for an investigation one night, prompting off of my story of my personal experience that I had. And we went out there, and we were on the property. We were experiencing the vortex feeling. It was happened to be a very warm summer night that we were out there. When we crossed the border, it felt that it dropped about 20 to 30 degrees. And we started, we did some basic EVPs and stuff like that. And then I saw this Chevy K5 up on the road pull up and stop at the gate and turn around and hightail it out of there. And I told everybody, I was like, I'm leaving. Anybody that's smart's going to come with me, because I'm telling you now, the cops are coming. Luckily, I was able to get everybody off the property. We got in our vehicles, and as we headed out to the road, which was a T-way stop sign, yes, as we stopped at the intersection, the 2 cop cars came flying in, taking a right, going down the road towards the church, followed by the K5 Chevy. So so luckily my premonition as cops coming, or just basic knowledge of, hey, that guy knows that we're here, he's going to go call someone, got us out of there. We were not caught on property, but yes, we did break the rules that night. But there was no rules after, because like I said, there was no trespassing sign at that point.
Right.
But there is now. So, okay, my other story is at Waverly Hills. We were on the 4th floor. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I don't know how many people have been to Waverly Hills, but I will tell you that it's probably one of the most haunted locations I've ever been in my life. Experienced nonstop activity throughout the night, pretty much. In fact, it reached sunrise, and we were like, when we were doing the middle investigation, we were doing an EVP session, we were down in the electric shock room, and all of a sudden this light appeared, and we were like, what in the hell is that light? It was the sun coming up. So, so Waverly Hills is very, very active location. Well, I still got this to this day. I'd actually love to show it to you guys. I've actually got a video of me following the ball in 4th floor hallway. Timmy or something was moving the ball in front of me. I was recording it with no light, but I had a K2 out in front of me. And so as I was walking with the camera and the K2, every once in a while I turn on the flashlight, and you can see that the ball had moved in front of me. Like as I was just walking behind it, it was moving. Now, the way Waverly Hills is set up, for those who have not been there, basically there is a crescent outer structure. The whole building is crescent shaped. And the reason for that is that it's built on top of a hill in Kentucky, where basically the wind blows constantly. The whole point for that is that basically they figured they'd build the solarium part of the building in a crescent shape facing where the wind comes from, because they figured that the fresh air would help the patients breathe better and things of that nature. So the inside of the crescent is facing where the wind comes from. The way they had it built was it was a solarium first, and then it was patient's room, and then there was a hallway, and then there's patient's room. The outside of the crescent were the terminal ill patients. The reason for that is basically they're housed in the front of Waverly Hills, so that way they could see family coming, they could see parents coming, they could see friends coming, they could see activity. It was basically made to boost the morale of the terminally ill patients. Then there's the inner hallway, and then once again there's patient rooms / nurses quarters, not quarters, but nurses stations and things of that nature, and then the outside solarium. So I'm on the inside hallway between the terminally ill rooms and the basic patient rooms / nurses stations. And I'm actually on the far corner, and I'm walking, and I suddenly look up, and that night that we were investigating, we got really lucky. It was a bright moonlit night. And so the moonlight was coming in, the whole solarium was completely splashed in moonlight. And it was coming into the nurses stations a little bit, and I'm walking, and I'm just walking along, and I just happened to look up a little bit to my right about 2 o'clock or so, and standing there is a fellow investigator, Billy, and he looks just like him, completely blacked out shadow though, but looks just like him, even has his foot cocked to the side like Billy does when he's standing. And I happen to just stop recording and I look up. I'm like, Billy, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing here? I mean, I thought you were investigating back there. No answer. And I'm still looking at this shadow that is staring directly at me, but I can't see any facial features or anything like that. I'm like, Billy, what are you doing? And finally, about 30, 40, 50 feet behind me or so, sitting out on one of the brick ledges, smoking a cigarette, real respectful, Billy goes, what? And so, of course, I immediately turn my head and I look back because, of course, that's where the voice came from. So it's only natural instinct to turn your head towards it. And then I look back again and whatever was standing in front of me is gone. And I'm like, Billy, what are you doing? It's not, you know, it's not cool to play games. You know, we only have so much time on this floor before we get moved. And he was like, what are you talking about? And me and him almost get into a physical fight about it. Cause I'm like, dude, you were just standing in front of me. And he's like, no, I wasn't. I'm like, yeah, you were. I saw you with my own two eyes. You were standing there looking at me. But and I will tell you one thing, and this is something that just completely freaks me out. Now that I think back to this situation, now, no, Billy was 30, 40, 50 feet away from me down the Solarium walkway, leaning against a pillar, smoking a cigarette, because he actually showed me a cigarette that he was smoking. And tuberculosis hospital. Yeah, real classic. So, so, you know, but I really think about it now after the fact, and you know, the way that thing was looking at me, that I can only describe it as his doppelganger. It seemed like I really got a really strong feeling from it that it was angry that I saw it before Billy saw it. Because I guess the way is what my understanding of doppelgangers are is that if you see yourself, it's a evil elemental spirit that is looking to, I guess, take control of your vessel and kick your soul out. I don't know. I haven't really done much research into doppelgangers, so I really don't know if I'm, you know, if I'm telling, you know, what I'm saying is correct or not. But whatever that was, it was not happy that I saw it before Billy saw it. At least as far as I could tell, because it was Billy. It was Billy standing there. But Billy was 50 feet away. There's no way he could have moved with the equipment we had and the amount of people we had in that area that somebody else didn't see him or hear him. And all I had to do was just look in Billy's direction to his voice, which it was Billy that was talking, and look back, and that thing was gone out of my view. So, and you could tell by the way my voice got kind of excited and kind of hyper and stumbling a little bit, that was one of those situations that scared the living crap out of me. And it still does even to talk about it to this day, because now I understand the reason and the feeling of the pure, I don't want to say evil, but just pure fury that I had encountered it and said something to it before Billy did, if I understand how doppelgangers work.
Oh, wow. That is really creepy.
That is. Very much so.
So,
June has a
they're short stories,
experience.
but they're scary.
Yes.
Wow. Did you say I had a doppelganger experience?
Wait, at Thornwood, we had doppelgangers.
Yes, that's
I remember
true.
you saying something about that, and
Yeah.
I tried to say something, but I was like, well, I don't want to, you know, like overrun the conversation with my
No,
It's a 2-hour show. We're good.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I swear, I even see it in my head right now is Jake walking down the stairs. He even had hold of the railing, walking down the stairs, looking at the stairs, and that was Jake from behind. Not saying I like to look at Jake from behind or anything like that.
Jake!
But
We can look as long as there's cash tip involved.
Yeah. So I have to give him my money.
That's right. The rent is due.
But I mean, you know, I was looking at him going downstairs, and I was even thinking, I wonder what Jake is going downstairs for. I wonder what if he left some equipment, he's going to get some more equipment out of the car, you know, everything. And then of course, when Sandy came out and said, hey, where's Jake? And I said, oh, I saw him go downstairs. And she's like, okay, well, you want to walk around a little bit? I was like, sure. So we start to walk around and we start to go up to the 3rd floor. And Sandy's like, Jake isn't down there. Jake is upstairs here. He was walking by the entrance up there. And I was like, really?
No.
I was like, are you sure? And I think I even said, are you
yourself.
sure?
It was my evil twin Skippy.
Yeah. But he
Yeah.
couldn't have gone around us or anything, because that was like the only way up and down that stairway was that stairway, up and down the stairs there. So I mean, I think there might have been back stairs, but he was, he didn't use the back
What's
stairs.
crazy about doppelgangers is that, when you see them, and I'm not really sure if I believe in doppelgangers. I've only had really one experience with, seeing somebody that is a team member of mine that I know very well. And, but you recognize, like you said, you saw him walking down the stairs. It was him from behind. I saw him standing there. He was happened to be standing on the angle of one of the pillars, which was blocked by the moonlight, of course. It was blocking moonlight. So it was standing in the shadow, but I could see a shadow within a shadow. I'm sure any of you know what I'm talking about.
Wow.
And like I said, it even, and the way I know it was him is because he had his foot cocked to the side. Like I really have only seen pretty much one other guy do ever. And it was just because it's such a severe angle to the side, and that's how he stands. And it's like, and I'm not saying that
mimicking him. Yeah.
It absolutely was. It was the same height as him, the same body size as him. I mean, it was it was Peter Pan's shadow. It was Billy's shadow.
Wow.
Had escaped his side and was standing in front of me and was beyond angry that I saw it. And that's just the only thing I feel.
That actually happened with Ross. I mean, he didn't see it himself, but with the Bel Air house in Ohio, when David Weatherly was going up there, all of a sudden he screamed, and he said that he saw Ross coming out of the room that Ross slept in and was charging at him. And he swears that it was Ross, and that freaked him out so much. And as soon as that happened, and they ran upstairs to see if he was okay, and then he realized that wasn't Ross. But he goes, I swear I saw Ross charging at me from one of the side rooms. So they're talking about it, and Dave Spinks is kind of looking around, seeing, make sure nobody else is in there. And then all of a sudden he screams because he said he saw a shadow chasing after him. It was almost like it was a Ross mimic, and then it kind of dimmed down to a shadow and started, running after him. But maybe, maybe it was pissed because, Ross didn't see him.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you probably have heard the story of like the creeper at Waverly Hills and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
And right, where how he comes out of a doorway and looks at you, and then turns his head upside down, runs up the wall, and runs out on the ceiling chasing after you.
I think I would actually crap my pants then.
Well,
I don't get nervous or scared usually, but if I saw something like that turns his head and starts crawling up a wall, I'd be like, let's get the raid.
I've got a little story that happened to me when I was at Waverly Hills. We were on the 3rd floor, and for the people that have been to Waverly Hills, it's a long hallway, angle,
very long.
Really long hallway, angle, and then another hallway to complete the crescent. And at most of those, on most floors, they have a folding chair there where you can sit on the angle. They have a folding chair there for people to rest. I guess
I found all the folding
people that
chairs.
move groups around probably sit there and rest or whatever. And we were out there. I was basically the whole group. Remember what I think it is, the 3rd floor that has like the operating room on it. On one far side is an operating room. Might be the 2nd floor, but whatever. But it was one of those 2 floors. I don't really remember as many years ago now. Either. But I think it's the 3rd floor had the operating room way down on the east side, like a couple of operating rooms or something. But I was basically, so where those rooms are is all the way down right above where the room is that you keep all your equipment and all that stuff where you go in the tunnel. So it's on that side of the building, 3rd floor, I believe. And that's where the rest of the team was. And I just was like, hey, I just want to sit over here. I had recently come off a knee surgery, so I was in a lot of discomfort, a lot of walking in Waverly Hills. Oh my God. So I was like, I'm just going to sit here. You see where I am. You guys can walk out to that angle and look directly at me. You'll see where I am. I'm not going to move out of this chair. And I was sitting there, and like I said, this is still around the same time that the moonlight was filtering it. Now, the moonlight had moved because it's now filtering in through the terminally ill patient side of the building instead of the solarium side. And I'm sitting on this chair, looking left, right. It's kind of like there's nothing else really to do other than look left, right, because, anything that's going to happen is not going to happen in front of you on a wall. It's going to happen to the left or right. So I'm just kind of looking left or right. I have the flashlight off, the camera off. Everything's just kind of chilling. I don't really have anything on. I have an EVP thing running just to pick up any weird sounds. And all of a sudden, from the doorway coming from the rooms on the solarium side, this happened to the right of me, going on into a terminally ill patient room. The only way I can describe it is, now I don't want to say it was the creeper. It could have been a doctor and a patient, could have been two patients. I'm not really sure, but basically hold your left hand up in front of you upside down, wiggle your fingers across your line of sight. It looked like two pairs of legs or something going across the hallway in the moonlight, like doctor's legs and patient legs, or it could have been the creeper, because as soon as I saw it, I thought about going that way, and then there was this weird noise that I can't really describe, and I decided not to go that way. I decided to go the other way towards my team, not running or screaming like a little girl, but definitely just like, what?
Dude, run!
I trust you. I'm going to go this way. Yeah. Have a good night.
Nonchalant.
So of course I went down and got my team. We came back and looked, Now, I mean, I don't know if I'm not trying to steal the show or anything, if you guys have anything else to tell, but I've got more
No,
stories.
come on, bring them.
All right.
We have a few, but
yeah, we do have some few.
Okay. I have an EVP still to this day, and this is at Waverly Hills as well. Now, I don't know I'm sure you guys probably heard this story if you've been to Waverly Hills about the homeless man and his dog that was thrown down the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Well, I've got EVPs recording the dog barking in the elevator shaft.
Oh, wow.
It was really weird because we only heard one dog bark that night, and right beyond the forest line or the tree line of Waverly Hills, there are houses down there. I mean, there's a golf course and crap like that down there. There are houses down there, but we did hear one dog bark clearly with our ears, but we figured that it was probably one of the neighborhood houses. But then right after that dog bark was a series of more dog barks. And the thing about the dog barks is that there was it sounded like distress. Now, the story that I understood is that there was a homeless man at one point that lived in Waverly Hills between the time it was a tuberculosis hospital and it was a retirement home, or a last stop home. And this is before, I guess it was a psych ward as well. But apparently there was a homeless man at one point when it was not being used, and he slept on the 4th floor or 5th floor or something like that. And I guess a couple of Satan worshipers broke in to Waverly Hills and were, doing things unorthodoxly, and basically basically found the old man and his dog and threw them down the elevator shaft. And from what my understanding is that when Waverly Hills closed down, they soldered the elevator doors shut so that nobody could get into the elevator shaft. But apparently somehow somebody, either I don't believe, if the story is correct, that the Satanists did any damage to get into the elevator shaft, but some vandals prior to the Satanists had gone into the elevator shaft somehow from the 4th floor. And they, I guess in a ritualistic type of way, had thrown in the old man and his dog into the elevator shaft as a token or as a sacrifice to Satan or whoever. And apparently the old man pretty much died on impact, but the dog did not. And they believe that the dog lived, but of course, a little bit, maybe broken or injured, but the dog lived longer than the man. And they only suspected that because of the amount of deterioration. Apparently the dog ended up chewing on the old man at some point for sustenance, of course. And they could tell by breakdown of, I guess, the decomposition of the dog compared to the man, that the dog died long after the man did. It was weird because we heard that one dog bark, and of course we didn't think about the story. We didn't even know about this story until we told the people in the break room about the dog barking. Like, you guys ever hear a dog bark here? And they told us about the story, and then we went back and listened to our evidence, and we got it. And what it was is that basically, as we're walking down the hallway towards the elevator shaft, you can hear a dog barking very clearly on the EVP, very loud, very sharp, in distress, going, "Hey, we're here. We're here. Let us out. We're here. Come find us." We didn't hear a single thing with our ears, with our human ears. And then as we walked away from the elevator doors, the dog barking got quieter and quieter, but it was still that sharp, "Arr, arr, 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 arr," and we never heard it with our ears. We only heard one dog bark, which we can't claim. We can't prove whether it came from the neighborhood or it may have been, did we actually hear, a paranormal noise break the sound plane, so I don't know. You listen to the two and they sound very similar, but they also sound different in the clarity and the crispness of it, when you hear it on the recorder. Because on the recorder, it sounds like it's at a distance, like a really far distance, but it's clear and sharp. And then once you hear the EVPs, it's clear and sharp, and it sounds like it's right there in the building with you.
Oh, wow.
So
it's really sad.
It really is, because it's kind of like,
who cares about the old man? Like the dog that was thrown down, we're all like, "Oh, the dog."
Right.
Dude,
Yeah, it's just a human. Who
Yeah.
cares?
There's so
funny.
many of those left in the
Millions
world.
of them.
dude.
Precious.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. We really
Thanks.
appreciate you sharing. That was really cool.
Problem.
It's like,
Mhm.
ooh, it's creepy.
I love telling those stories, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing. We really
Absolutely. I'm
enjoyed
so
those.
glad thank you for inviting me on to tell the story.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem.
Sure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Now, of course, we can sit down and I can let you listen to some of those EVPs.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really love to hear it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Alrighty then. Well, shall
I don't have cool earphones like you guys. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm mostly deaf, so sometimes, and it just helps me hear a little clearer. How about one of Don's? His ode to Friday the 13th. It's a short poem.
And
June.
who's reading that?
Oh,
Oh, I can. I got it here.
if you have it there, yeah.
Okay.
It was one I managed to get printed off.
Oh, awesome.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
All right. It's tick tock, watching the clock. Jason's ode to Friday the 13th. Now I lay me down to sleep. In the morning, souls to reap. Chase the teens through forest chill. Catch them screaming atop the hill. While in the house, more naughty kids amuse themselves with racy vids. Shuttered panes and bolted doors shelter victims on every floor. But not for long they'll hide from me, for Friday's here and I am free. So smoke your last green cigarette. One last romp is all you will get. Don't bother reaching for your phone. This 13th, I'm coming home.
Ooh, that was good.
That was cute, wasn't it?
That's Don McCann. Yeah, he's a
Yes.
good writer.
Mhm.
I will give that props.
Thank you, Don, if you're listening or if you've been around. Thank you to you.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Well, should we play another one of Randy's stories?
Sure.
Yes,
Let me
let's.
cue up Randy. Spooky story number 2.
Cleverly titled.
Cleverly. One moment while I retrieve that player.
Certainly.
And here we are.
When I was in the military, 2 other guys and I decided to run a place off base. We were checking different places when we came to one apartment. The manager was a strange old woman who refused to let anyone walk behind her. We went up the stairs with the manager following. She kept staring at me strangely like she thought I was going to attack her or something. We went from room to room checking it out, with her near the door, seemingly ready to run. When 2 of us went into one of the bedrooms and opened a closet, we noticed an attic door in the ceiling above, in the closet. We came out and I commented, "Weird place to have an attic door." She asked where, and I told her in the closet. She quickly said, "There's no attic door in the closet." We went back in and looked, and sure enough, there was no attic door. We both looked at each other and decided, we'll find another place.
That was good. I was like, wait, what?
Yep.
Did
It
it
was
just
quick.
end? That was
Yeah,
good.
his stories just end.
Yep.
I don't know if that would be enough for me to find another place.
Yeah.
Maybe there was an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could share a story too.
Ooh.
It's a short one. You know, I usually tell the
Okay.
story. I usually tell the story about me at Montana, the old Montana State Prison in the administration building, where all of a sudden I was overcome with panic, which never happens to me. And you know, just really, really creepy. But you know, I never have told the story about when we investigated the old Ohio, let's see, the Mansfield State Penitentiary, the old, Mansfield State Penitentiary in Ohio.
Golly.
Yes, I was like, it was amazing. We got to investigate the place all night long, and at the end of the night, it was maybe I can't remember what time it was. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. We are upstairs in kind of the attic. So we have Spectre running, which in a ghost, that is a machine basically that measures all sorts of different things in the atmosphere from we have a little sonar, EMF readings, sound, if there's any strange sounds, you know, going on, vibration. Can't remember what else does it have on there, Jake. It has so many different readings on for Spectre. I was gonna say it has
it's
all
like an
It
Eddie
makes
Plus
popcorn, I believe.
Yeah, it does not
you
make
can make popcorn. You can heat up your leftovers.
that would be awesome though.
You know.
But it's a very cool machine. So we had that kind of set up, and there's about I think 4 or 5 of us up. I think 5 of us upstairs in the attic, and we're all spaced kind of throughout the attic. It's a huge space. And we start doing an EVP session. And it's already dark, there's no lights on, and we're doing this EVP session, and Ross is asking these questions. When all of a sudden we start hearing like step, drag, step, drag, step, drag, like somebody is walking. None of us are walking. But it sounds like somebody is stepping and then dragging their foot behind them. All of a sudden, when this happens, it starts getting darker and darker. I don't know if anyone has ever had that experience before, but you're already in a dark place, and all of a sudden it starts just swirling blackness and getting darker, and the blackness just it's just the weirdest feeling ever, because you're like, you don't think it can get any darker, and then all of a sudden it's like you're in a cave, completely, you know, darkness, completely black. And at this time it starts getting colder and colder, and I'm starting to get goosebumps and shiver, and I'm looking around, I feel like somebody's behind me, and I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. And that's a really, really weird thing for me when I start feeling really uncomfortable. But then like I said, with that happening, then we start hearing the dragging footsteps. It gets darker and darker, and then all of a sudden it just all lifted and went away, and we all kind of blinked, and we're looking at each other, and we're like, did that just happen to everybody else? And found out we all had that same experience where it got blacker and blacker. We all heard the footsteps, and on the spectre system it actually showed that something was moving around down by that system, down by the doorway. So yeah, that was one time that it really kind of made me extremely uncomfortable in that old prison. So old reformatory.
That reminds me of my my trip to Old City Jail, but I'll save that for another time.
Oh, in Charleston?
Yeah, in Charleston. Yeah, we actually got the recording. It sounded like a guard walking down the hallway dragging a chain, but then actually went back and checked out the recordings and cleaned it up. It was actually the sound of. Now I'm sure you all were shown the picture or the Jane. You've been there before, Jacob, correct?
Old City Jail, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure they show you the ring of the steel keys or the iron keys.
Yep.
Yep. That's a big part of the tour or whatever. Well, we actually caught the sound of a guard walking down the hallway swinging those keys.
Oh, wow.
It sounded like a chain being dragged on the floor, but it was him swinging the keys, the iron keys.
Oh, wow. Cool.
That's
so
cool.
we actually got I have recording too. But yeah, it was that's because we were like, it sounds like he's dragging someone down the hallway, because it was on the 5th floor, where of course everything, floor, wall, ceiling, everything is iron.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's the level of the prison where, because the people that had broken out, or the worst prisoners of them all, were put on that floor because they couldn't chip through the walls.
Oh, wow.
So but yeah, we got the recording of a guard swinging the keys, we believe. So I get that sound of the walking.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that was one time that I have to say that that's a pretty amazing place. If you ever get a chance to go there, they do offer ghost hunts, or they used to offer public ghost hunts there too. But luckily, we got the place to ourselves.
Well, the next time you have the place to yourselves, let me know.
Hopefully, we'll get another chance like that. That was incredible.
True.
All right, guys.
What's next?
What do we have next? Another Randy story?
Let me cue up Randy's spooky story number 3. One moment, please, while I retrieve that information. My computer's starting to get a little bogged down from streaming everything. I'm the host for video radio.
Oh, come on, Jacob.
No, but Daddy and gadgets. This just means Daddy might get more powerful gadget to play this stuff. That's what.
Ooh, can
I'm
I have Daddy's
Southern,
old powerful gadget?
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute.
I'm Northern AF.
You got weird gadgets you don't want no more,
Okay. We can.
There is charity.
Okay, here we go. Here is Randy's spooky story number 3.
My dad used to sit in the garage smoking with the window blinds open so he could see who was coming and going. We had a neighbor across from us that was a friend of ours. He was in his 70s and walked with a limp. He and his wife had a place in Arizona and would go down frequently to spend a few weeks. One day my dad popped in to use the bathroom and commented, "I didn't know Ken came home. Just saw him walking from his truck to his place." We didn't think anything else about it. A few hours later, his wife called us from Arizona to let us know that Ken had passed away that morning with them by his side. My dad was shaken up from it because he had known he'd seen him clearly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's so many stories like that.
Yes, there are. Now, June, do you remember meeting oh darn it, I can see the woman who tried to come in was asking how to connect with Brenda Berger. She was talking to me on the phone today, and she told me a story that was a little more horrifying than real scary for now, but Brenda's family goes way back in the Liberty area of Missouri, and apparently an aunt of her husband's fell ill one day and kept getting more and more ill, and then finally she passed away, or so they thought.
Uh-oh.
So poor aunt, what's her name, was buried alive, and they were very wealthy, and she was buried with all of her rings and everything. So guess who comes along to dig up the grave just, that same day or that same night or right close in there. We're talking probably around 1900, 1910, 1920, somewhere in there. But as she's bloated from being still so long, and basically her blood not moving hardly at all. They cut her fingers off to get these gold rings off, which started stimulating her adrenaline and her blood again. But off the grave robbers ran, and up pops old great aunt, what's her name? And apparently they lived on a farm, so there was a little family plot near the home, thankfully. But she clawed her way up out of the grave, crawled up to the house, scared the living bejesus out of the people that had just buried her.
I want my rings. Oh my God. We should not laugh at this. That's a horrible story, but
it really, really is.
But I could see that movie in my head right now. Oh my God.
Yes, exactly.
Was she okay after that? I mean, for a while?
Yeah, she lived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Without her fingers. Oh.
Yes, she lost her fingers on the one hand.
Oh my
her
God.
fingers
That's
and
horrible.
her rings.
Yes. No telling which she was more.
Fingers are bad enough, but rings, that's a real kick in the crop.
Oh.
Wow. Can you imagine your family? You're in your house, and all of a sudden, I don't know if maybe she made it to the door, and she's like,
pounding on the door.
What's that noise? She's probably crawling.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah. She's probably crawled her way to the door, and she's laying at the bottom of the door. And then all of a sudden they open the door. I'm surprised she didn't get shot.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Somebody had a rifle.
I don't know.
What the hell?
I would put my fingers in the door jamb and then blame them.
Right. Yeah.
Look what you did!
Oh my God, that's a horrifying story. I can't even imagine.
Just made it so much worse.
Oh yeah. God. Oh, well, at least that's. I wonder how many years she lived after that. I mean,
I do not know.
Hopefully, she was a really nice person that people missed.
I believe so. Yeah.
I bet she freaked the kids out.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly,
True.
yeah. And the grieving widower.
He's like, yeah. Just glad that he actually missed her. Not
That's
like, I'm finally free. I'm finally free.
Yeah.
And then here she comes back. Yeah.
All they got was your fingers.
Yeah, there was some story that it was back at the turn of the century, and the pallbearers were carrying the woman that passed away, and the pallbearers were carrying her, and all of a sudden they dropped the casket going down the steps, and when they dropped her, she fell out and she rolled out and she came to.
Oh my God.
And she she
Yeah.
was fine. She was fine, I guess for a few years after that, and then she died again, and the husband was really making sure that they watched their step this time.
Her in her place.
It's like, please do not let this happen again. But I hear she was a bit of a battle axe.
Last time you screwed it up, I lost $40,000 more.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, let me see. Well, I could read another story.
Sure.
Okay.
If you'd like me to. I had it queued up here, which of course I didn't. talk amongst yourselves until I find
Oh,
this
all
story
right.
that I had queued up just a little bit ago, which now I don't have because I probably was like all of a sudden looking for something shiny. Like, oh, what's this?
Oh,
Where is that ghost story that I had?
I don't know.
Well, I could play a Bloody
4?
Mary, a blood
okay.
entity, or a flapper.
What?
A
A
flapper
bloody
girl.
entity flapper?
A
Oh
Bloody
yeah, why don't
Mary.
you do that?
A bloody
Mm.
a blood entity.
I'd like a
or
Bloody
flap-
Mary.
You want a Bloody Mary? Okay.
I would love a
Yes.
Bloody Mary.
Yup, tomato juice.
Here we go. Let me share. And I will play this tale from my former state of Illinois.
I lived in Buffalo Grove at one point.
Oh, nice. Can you hear it okay?
Mm-hmm.
North of Chicago lies a little idyllic town called Wadsworth. It sits in Lake County, not far from Lake Michigan. It has a bit of history to it. During the Civil War, the town was one of the final spots on the Underground Railroad. The escaping slaves would find their way to farms and seek shelter. But in Wadsworth, safety wasn't what they found. Many farmers in the area would offer their barns to the escaping slaves. It would be a final spot to rest before they made their way into Wisconsin and off to Canada. If they found themselves on the farm that belonged to Mary Ward, well, they didn't get a chance to rest. You see, Mary was sick. The slaves would be shackled. She would lock them up. She would beat them. She would whip them. She would burn them. And she would cut their limbs off. When they died from these horrible acts, she buried them in the fields behind her barn. Eventually, the townspeople got wind of what was happening, and they came out to the farm and discovered the bodies and injured slaves shackled to barn posts. They grabbed Mary in a fit of rage, and they tied her up and burned her alive. As she died, she screamed a curse on the town, saying that anyone that invoked her name would meet a horrible fate. That Mary Ward has become Bloody Mary today. It's not over yet. In another idyllic little town, Glen Ellen, just west of Chicago, 4 friends settled in for a night of sangria and juvenile fun. They had just finished finals week at different universities, scattered across the Midwest. The 4 friends hadn't seen each other in more than a year, and they wanted to have a childhood theme for the night. It was likely the last night they would see each other for quite some time. They decided on a 7th grade sleepover, one of their favorite activities they did as kids. Now that they'd all reached 21, they introduced some alcohol to their shindig. They jettisoned their Capri Sun juice drinks or some sangria and talked about their boyfriends, not their middle school crushes. And Carly wanted to play their favorite game, Truth or Dare. It seemed harmless enough. Most of the young women picked the truth option and told each other sordid tales of sorority parties, wild spring breaks, and hookups. But Megan chose Dare, and Carly sent her into the bathroom to summon Bloody Mary. The other 2 ladies, Samantha and Jade, gasped at the thought of calling a killer spirit, but voiced their support for it after a quick slug of the sangria. They needed some liquid courage, after all. Megan didn't seem bothered by the request. She stood, took a long drink, and made her way to the bathroom. Jade handed her a candle and told her to keep the light off and to speak loudly and clearly. The ladies would listen on the other side of the door. If they couldn't hear and understand Megan, then she'd get another dare, and this one would be worse. Megan entered the bathroom, flipped the light switch to off, and left the door slightly open, just enough for a peering eye to see her. In front and above the bathroom sink was your standard rectangular mirror with the shower and Megan reflected in it. Megan wasn't happy with the dim candlelight. It made her look like she had bags under her eyes. She flipped her dark brown hair back and leaned into the mirror, casting a glance at the door to make sure her friends saw her. Megan saw Carly's little beady green eye fixed on her. Megan repeated, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," 5 times in all. You gotta be But intense. she did say it in the way a stage actor would do it, with the drama you would hear on Radio City Music Hall, or one of those Broadway productions. The bathroom remained still for a few seconds after she finished saying that dreadful name. Then, the candle flickered, sparked, and flared bright enough to fill the bathroom like it was daylight. Megan stepped away from the mirror as her friends flung open the door and turned on the light. Samantha hugged Megan. They all asked if she was okay. Megan was stunned, stepped back, but she raised her hand and pointed at the mirror. There was something in the reflection. More like someone in the reflection, but it was none of the girls. A dark silhouette had formed. Second by second, it grew more detailed. It was a female. You could tell by the length of its hair. She was pale, almost chalk white, with chubby cheeks, a button nose, and thin pink lips. Black veins crawled across her temples. Her eyes were sunken in with black circles, and her eyes were lemon yellow. The figure seemed aged. It glared at Megan, lifted its index finger, and wagged it no. Carly sprung into action and took a metal soap dish from the sink counter. She hurled it into the mirror, shattering it into dozens of splintering shards. Each fell like a twinkling star to the beige tile below. Bloody Mary never manifested in the other mirrors. The next day, Carly had the house blessed by a priest. There have been no signs of the specter at the house since this event. And there you have it.
I have a question.
That is
Shoot.
creepy.
Sangria?
What's
They
wrong with
just
sangria?
turned 21 and they're drinking sangria?
Hey, look, I'm just reporting a story, bro.
They were not drinking sangria. You were lied to.
They were swigging vodka.
They were kegging it.
Oh, probably in addition
They
to
just
the
said
sangria.
21.
Well,
they were not drinking sangria. If they just
just-
31. Okay, maybe sangria.
Hey,
21. No.
I chugged sangria when I was 21.
You know, you
22,
can
and
get that
23.
five-
Chug
and
Mad Dog
5.99
2020.
gallons
Yeah, I
of
did too.
hooch.
Boone's Farm.
Boone's
Boone's Farm. There you
Boone's
go.
Oh my
Farm.
God. That made me sick just saying that out loud.
Oh,
What was it? What was it? Ernst and Julio? What was
Yeah.
it?
Oh, Ernesto, was it?
Yeah, the-
Ernesto, what's his name?
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
The blueberry or
Oh,
the
Oh,
wine
Jules and
coolers.
Vern.
Coolers. That's it. Wine
shoot.
coolers.
Yeah.
I'm
What was it?
still having those actually right now. That sounds kind of good.
What is the name?
Or we
Ernest and
forgot already.
Julio
Yeah,
Gallo?
no.
Oh, yeah, something Gallo.
Is it
Yeah,
Gallo?
Ernest and Julio.
Or I guess it
Ernest
is.
and
Yeah.
Julio. Ernest and shoot, I'm too old. But you guys know what I'm talking about. There were wine coolers at one point.
Yeah,
Yep, we were checking those when I was in my 20s. But sangria
Yeah.
too. Actually, we
Well,
love
I was,
sangria.
yeah.
We were a
I was
little
right
more,
there.
It was the Reuniti Royal Raspberry that got me.
Oh yes, that
Mhm.
sounds really good.
California
Oh.
coolers
I
from Michelle.
I just drank a lot of different stuff. I don't really remember what it's called. I know it all made me sick, and
It was the effect you were
really, really drunk.
Mhm.
I have so many flavors going through my nostrils. I can't remember them all.
You know, why don't I read some of the 2-sentence horror stories?
Ooh.
Those are
those
always
fun.
those are always really fun. Okay. Some of these I'm sure you've probably heard a million times, but I really do love these because
But if
they're
you
just
use a creepy
they're
voice,
short.
it'll be different this time.
Okay, I'll try to
Yeah,
use a creepy
Jim.
voice.
Yes.
Not
Creepy
the one
voice.
900
Yeah,
voice.
I
exactly.
failed the creepy
Other
voice, so
one.
you have to do it.
Hey, baby, hubba, $5.
I'll say, after working a hard day, I come home. Okay, I'll try to say it in a spookier voice. I wonder if I can put some creepy music behind me here. Let's see. Do I have my
Has to
creepy
be a
music here?
backdrop, though.
Okay.
Ooh, we hear creepy music.
That sounds like hardcore metal.
Hardcore?
Metal.
Okay.
Hardcore
I'll hear
August.
that. There's an ambient. Oh, that's a rainstorm. Let's try to hear this. Okay, here we go.
Are you sure?
Here we go. I think that's a cricket, a scary cricket.
Terrifying cricket.
Yes, trying to find something spooky. Oh, here's Hellbound.
Jiminy Cricket.
Yes, Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy cricket with no legs.
Okay, here we go. After working a hard... Okay, let me try it again. After working a hard day, I came home to see my girlfriend cradling... And I messed it up. I have to say it without messing it up. Okay,
Yeah,
let me
you
try
just
this
need
again.
some
That's why
liquor.
I couldn't do a
Since-
creepy voice.
Since this is only 2 sentences, it's really sad. Okay. After working a hard day, I came home to see my girlfriend cradling our child. I didn't know which was more frightening, seeing my dead girlfriend and stillborn child, or knowing that someone broke into my apartment to place them there.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, that is so apt.
That's a good one. Let's see.
I feel like I need to take a shower. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like, ooh. Okay, here's this. I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first, I thought it was the window until I heard it come from the mirror again. Okay, never mind. Okay. I awoke to the sound of the baby. Okay, I awoke to the sound of the baby monitor crackling with a voice comforting my firstborn child. As I adjusted to a new position, my arm brushed against my wife, sleeping next to me. Okay.
Okay.
Let's try a bit of
Okay,
music.
so somebody's in my house. Let me get my gun.
Okay, how's this one? The last thing I saw was my alarm clock flashing 12:07 before she pushed her long, rotting nails through my chest, her other hand muffling my screams. I sat bolt upright, relieved it was only a dream, but as I saw my alarm clock read 12:06, I heard my closet door creak open.
Okay, that was 2 really run-on sentences.
Yeah, that was a really long one.
They
And
took
honestly,
Yes.
the music that you have playing was more terrifying.
Yes, I think so too. Let's see, what's this one? Growing up with cats and dogs, I got used to the sounds of scratching at my door while I slept. Now that I live alone, it is much more unsettling. How about this?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good one. I can't sleep, she whispered, crawling into bed with me. I woke up cold, clutching the dress she was buried in. Okay, one more. Let me find
That was
it.
a pretty good one. I mean,
Yeah.
that was,
Yeah, those
you
are those.
tell, a circle of 8-year-olds that stuff, they're gonna crap themselves.
Okay, let me find one more. Let's see. That's not a good one. Yeah, that one's funny.
And not reading it.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, eh.
Eh.
Okay. You get home tired after a long day's work and ready for a relaxing night alone. You reach for the light switch, but another hand is already there.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay. We'll stop there since we only have 5 minutes now. Did you
Oh,
want to
so
play?
did this
Randy
start
number
at
4?
7?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Did you want to?
I couldn't
Randy
get Randy
number
number 4 to download.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sorry, Randy
okay.
number 4. Oh,
Every time I tried, it just wouldn't.
those were great
Download.
stories, Randy.
Does
We
this
really
start at 7
appreciate it.
o'clock then normally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Language.
Excuse me. Sorry.
This episode rated explicit. Parental guidance advised.
Thanks to our storyteller.
Thanks to our guest storyteller.
Sorry about that.
Oh, by the
guys.
way, I was checking on your old group. Their Facebook pages are gone and their website's gone.
Yeah, that's because they're stupid.
Okay.
I mean, no, but like they have YouTube things up and they have Facebook pages, but no, they had like her sister was in control of the website through GoDaddy or some crap, and we all, I think she gave up, and I don't know what's happened. I've been gone for a while, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know what's happened with them.
Wow.
I just have the tattoo on my arm as my first call group, so I need to get a ghost tattoo over it.
All right, guys.
Yep.
But I appreciate you looking them up.
Yeah, no problem. I did find an article of them and I posted it into our chat.
Actually, I've got some other articles that I will bring to you just to show you, but I've been in a couple of magazines and stuff down in Augusta.
Cool.
Nice.
The Augusta State University magazine, The Phoenix, we were in that, and then also twice in the Metro Spirit magazine, which is kind
Very
of like
cool.
Creative Loathing of Atlanta. So.
Mm.
And I've got
Well,
copies of
guys,
those.
I think
So.
it's time for us to say
Call it
adieu.
tonight.
Thank you
Yeah.
again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very
I will
much.
Josh.
Definitely tune in at 7 from now on, as long as I have the Zoom link. I'd love to check it
No
out.
worries.
Okay.
Sure.
Yay. It was fun.
So what do we have next week? Again.
Yeah, what do we have next week?
More dead people stories.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Of one flavor or another. Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever dealt with like black-eyed kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've it's been part of shows. I don't know
We've
if it's
touched
been
on them.
all.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't think it's been dedicated.
Whether they're real or not, that just creeps me out. Anybody's
Yeah,
got
all right.
I know what
two
you mean.
black eyes,
And you know
it's like,
what?
You know what? I'm gonna punch you in the throat right now. I mean,
Well, you know what? Now
Then
that
let's
we're
make
do-
it.
Yeah, now that we're doing
Because
Facebook
it's
Live,
one of my
Yeah.
favorite stories. I
Let's-
just
yeah,
love it.
black-eyed kids freak me the hell out. I've heard
maybe
some
we can do
stories.
some conjure magic. Get some
Ooh.
black-eyed kids here.
No, let's not get black. We don't want black-eyed kids here.
No,
Well, you got Mr.
I don't
Creepy.
want to have to throat punch anyone.
Well, no, we can do creepy versus black-eyed kids in an all-out brawl pay-per-view.
Okay, but I get to be armed with whatever I want, right? Because I am gonna
Yes.
F some black-eyed kids up. You're alien, you can't feel nothing? Okay, here.
Here's Daddy's chainsaw.
Bring it, bitch.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's right.
Come on, I'm talking about like a mace, man. I mean, make it entertaining.
Something with
Exactly.
high
Something.
splatter value.
Cat of nine tails. We'll just do the whole thing.
Yeah. No, see, now June is wicked. That's wicked.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to flatulate
those
Kids
children.
and cat of nine tails. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's messed up. Fish hooks and all.
Can't help it.
You've known Ross too long, or Ross
I
has known
know.
you too long. I'm not sure which.
Oh, okay,
All right.
guys.
Oh, good night, guys. Thanks again for having me, and I hope to join in on your next podcast. Or
Awesome,
whatever.
Josh.
Sure.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Thank you,
Cool.
sir.
Okay.
No
take
problem.
care.
Have a good night, and I
Bye.
look forward to investigating whenever we can get in groups of 5 or more.
True.
Yes, we will. I know
All right.
someday soon.
You guys have a good night. Be safe and sane.
Thank you.
You too.
You
All
as
right.
well.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
And okay, so June 10th,
Well,
we have John
shit.
Kachuba. June 15th, we've got Kim
Apparently, I have
and
to hit
Gabby.
leave and not just close on my phone.
Josh is still
Yeah.
trying to leave.
Leave it up to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we've got Horse Magic. I believe it's on the 24th, but I would have to check that.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, and then later on we'll have Orishas, Voodoo, and that one magic book.
Mhm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fun.
And we've got
Yes, very
Ghoulish
much so.
Tendencies, the
Yes.
podcast on June
Little
17th.
ghoulish tendencies.
Yes.
I feel ghoulish tonight.
Yes.
Woo!
Well, guys, this was our first Facebook Live video type event. I've learned so many technical things about
That was pretty
kinds of
awesome.
broadcasts. Yeah. So
As we all have a little bit
Yes.
anyway.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I mean, I don't really have any background music to play because we're not doing this a regular way. Like an outro track or anything. I can just say goodnight and hang up.
I'll have some creepy music playing in my headphones.
Okay. Well, we hear it too, sort of.
You got For Whom the Bell Tolls.
No bells. No bells. Just creep. All right, everybody.
Okay,
All right.
folks. With
See you
that,
next week.
have a good night.
Hey,
Night.
leave a little
Sweet-
feedback. Follow
sweet
our page.
dreams.
Yeah.
Sweet dreams.
Pleasant nightmares. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Bye.
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 One moment.